Hello everyone! I have big plans for today. I've decided that I'm going to draw some gift art for my 13-year-old self. Basically, this all started because I'm going away next week, so I wanted to do 2 videos this week so that I would have one scheduled for next week. And I thought for one of them, I would do a sketchbook tour of all the sketchbooks I have, and some of them are super duper old. However, I also went poking around in some of my digital art because I did a lot more digital art for a while, and I happened across this, which made me laugh. It's very cute. It also made me extremely nostalgic. This is a drawing of my first ever original character I ever made. That wasn't like a warrior cat. As you can see, his name is Maxwell Darkton, and he started out as kind of an edgy, mad scientist, serial killer type guy. Now you might see his little bow tie and think, oh, he's just a harmless little nerd, but that you would be wrong. I think actually what was really going on here is that I was like a big fan of Doctor Who at the time, and the 11th Doctor had a bow tie. So just like very embarrassing stuff happening here altogether, but it was so long ago that it doesn't really matter, and it just kind of makes me like laugh really hard actually. Anyway, so when I saw this, I was like, oh, I really, really want to redraw this, which I kind of did as just a little doodle. And now, you might be looking at this new drawing I did and think, well, how did he become a little Victorian gentleman? And the answer to that question is that I roleplayed him with a good friend of mine for years and years, and we came up with so many different alternative universes for our little OCs that he kind of came out the other side as just like a normal guy, who, especially after having like a very close brush with a steampunk AU, became a clockmaker. And I think this is my favorite version of him that I like remember, and so I really wanted to spend some more time with that particular idea. We'll probably see more of him and his little boyfriend, Tim, in the actual sketchbooks tour itself. I haven't filmed that yet, but I'm fairly certain there's more of this sort of thing in there. Oh, it's gonna be really embarrassing, but I'm excited to share. I think it'll be fun. Going back to like 13-year-old art is always really fun. I think it'll be a good time. Anyway, so I had a different concept in mind at first, and then I thought it would be fun to draw Max and Tim together for this illustration. I actually haven't used either of them for anything in years and years and years, so it was really fun to revisit these characters and to fill out a whole little scene with both of them in it. It is a pretty flat scene. I kind of tried to stylize it that way as a way to get around perspective, so it's kind of cheating if I'm being honest. I hope you'll forgive me. I need to put on my studying hat and really like get to work as far as perspective goes. It's definitely something that holds me back, and it's an area that I've identified for improvement. I just haven't gotten around to putting in the work there. Anyway, basically I just wanted to draw these two talking while Max worked in his shop. I thought it would be really cute, and I'm pretty sure that my 13-year-old self would have gone absolutely crazy if they saw this art. I think like ultimately, that was the point of this exercise, was to draw something that if I had received it as like a gift in the past, I would have gone absolutely crazy, and I think I really did succeed there. So overall, very successful, but yeah, perspective is like a weak point of mine for sure. I think that it can be really easy though to get stuck in a cycle of, oh no, my art isn't good enough, oh, I need to improve, which is also partially why I wanted to do this particular sort of exercise of taking a really old character and a really old drawing and kind of reimagining it. I have obviously improved tremendously since that first drawing of Max, and although there are things I know that I could improve on, I think it's also worth celebrating how far I've clearly come since I first started drawing people and coming up with my own characters and stories. I also think like I'm pretty proud of myself actually for doing all of this line work traditionally, and I didn't really make any huge major mistakes. I'm still getting used to drawing on paper and inking like this, which probably can't see because the footage is sped up, but my hands are actually quite shaky when I work on lines, and I really need to kind of work on my line quality because of this. Pulling longer lines is really hard for me, and I think it shows especially badly in Tim's jacket when I get to hatching it. But despite that, I really do like this piece. I had a lot of fun with it. Another thing that I wanted to talk about actually was sort of about how I go out picking costumes or clothes, I guess, for my characters. I have a lot of characters in various sort of historical or historical fantasy settings, and these two here are sort of vaguely Victorian. Generally, because I'm a nerd, I just have a lot of this information in my head, but the first step is always research when it comes to doing any kind of costuming. But it's fun research, I promise. Just to make sure we're all sort of on the same page here, the Victorian era was from 1831, when Queen Victoria ascended to the English throne, until her death in 1901. Before that, it was the Georgian period, or the Regency, as King George was considered unfit to rule England before his death, and a regent was installed to run things in his stead. After Victoria died, her son Edward became king, and so that's often called the Edwardian period. These terms are obviously very much centered on England and don't necessarily have a ton of relevance when talking about other places in the world, but they are also a very useful shorthand for certain time periods, Victorian era especially. However, in comparison to the Regency or the Edwardian era, Queen Victoria was on the throne for a very long time, and fashions and society changed dramatically while she was alive. In this drawing, Tim is wearing a frock coat that would have been fashionable around the 1840s or 50s. I found a similar one that actually existed on the Met Museum website. Here is the frock coat. As you can see, this particular one is from 1840. It's got little buttons on the front, a sort of cute green inner lining, and then, as you can see sort of in the final image here, it could have been worn open or closed. The gentleman on the left is wearing his open, much like Tim is in this particular illustration. However, you may also notice that I have taken some liberties, such as excluding all of the buttons, partially because I didn't actually use any reference for this image and completely forgot to add them in. Oops. And also partially because the purpose of this illustration is not to be as historically accurate as possible, but rather to give an impression of a certain time period. But this is a good reminder that reference is important and you should definitely use it. Don't be like me. I think if people are interested, I could go a little bit more in depth on this sort of thing. I really love history, and although I'm not particularly qualified to do so, I'm always happy to share what I know. So let me know in the comments if you'd like a little bit more information about sort of how I plan out historical costumes and the thought process that go into those. Circling back to the illustration itself, I was actually pretty intimidated by this illustration. I usually include my sketch process in these videos, but I didn't really feel comfortable doing that for this one. I needed to really lock in and just focus on what I was doing, and having the camera there while I was trying to draw something where I didn't totally know what I was doing or what I wanted actually felt very overwhelming. I am the worst for not drawing backgrounds. I love to draw characters standing there, doing a little pose in the middle of the page with nothing going on around them. It's my favorite thing to draw. I've been trying to draw more furniture and objects. I think that a lot of my characters are inside a lot of the time, so I figured that drawing individual pieces of furniture might make it easier when it comes time to put things together. I've also been doing studies of film stills. There's this website that has a bunch of film stills on it, and if I remember, I'll link it. I think it's pretty good for practicing drawing scenes and looking at composition and stuff, and probably also perspective, which is my enemy. But my goal is to be able to draw backgrounds that look relatively believable, because for comics you need to be able to draw backgrounds to let the reader know where the characters are and how they're moving through space. So it is something that I do need to work on in the future as I move forward with improving in my art. Once I'm back from my little trip, I think I might make some study with me type videos. There's a few things that I really want to tackle that I think will just help me get my art to that next level where I want it to be. So look out for those, because I think they're probably coming up within the next few weeks. Overall, though, I am pretty pleased with this drawing. I think that my younger 13-year-old self would have been over the moon to receive this, and I know that they would be kind of like flabbergasted that they were able to draw like this one day. And I think that I really need to hold on to that knowledge that a younger version of me would be so impressed. Like, look at Max, he looks so good compared to how he looked before. And Tim's cute little curl, he's so cute. Like, oh, it's so nice. And like, I think it was just so much fun getting reacquainted with these OCs. It felt a bit like pulling out a favorite sweater for the winter after it had been tucked away all the rest of the year. Just like super cozy and nostalgic and really fun and exciting, which is kind of funny considering how edgy Max was, especially when I first made him. But it's nice that he can be very like nostalgic for me now. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I encourage you to go find some old art if you still have any laying around and just give it your best shot. Redesign that old OC, redraw that same art now. It can be so encouraging to see even just a little bit of improvement. I have a tendency to compare myself to others, but the most important thing when you're comparing yourself is to compare yourself to yourself so you can see how much you have actually grown. I feel very like reinvigorated after doing this, and so yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I am feeling very excited for the future because of this as well. You know, like, oh, I accomplished so much already. I bet that I can sort of accomplish even more in the future. Like, I'm very excited to see where my art will take me moving forward, especially now that finally, after so many years, I'm actually trying to take it seriously. Anyway, I hope that you all have a really lovely week, and I will see you again next time for a big sketchbook tour. Bye!